Well, hello there, and welcome to the Dana Spencer Show, where we talk about solving problems, building relationships, quitting corporate, and the freedom to walk in your God given purpose. So, how are we feeling out there? I hope you are feeling amazing. I hope you were able to get out. You've got the activities of your limbs. This is the day that the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And I'm super glad today because I have an amazing guest with me here today. I am super excited to bring to the Dana Spencer Show Mr. Dimyas Purdue. You want to show him some love in the chat? Show him some love. How are we feeling today, Dimyas? How's it going?
Listen, I mean, before the intro and your lead in, I mean, I thought I was feeling great, but I'm ready to run through a wall right now. Yeah,
Awesome,
I'm good. I'm good.
awesome. So we're just going to jump right in. So our listeners want to know, what was it that you wanted to be when you grew up? When you were a little boy, what
Yeah.
was it that you wanted to be when you grew up?
Oh man, growing up in Montgomery, Alabama, it wasn't much to see within the community. So for me, like 100%, I was an athlete coming up. I wrestled, played football, and so my thing was I was going to the big league. I was going to the NFL. I wanted to be a pro football player. That was my thing.
Awesome. Okay, so wrestling and football.
Wrestling
So,
and football.
okay, so what college did you go to?
Oh, so I didn't go to college until years later.
Okay.
We
So
diving and
tell us.
we diving in. I didn't go to college to years later. Keep in mind, you said as a young boy, what did I want to be when I grew up? Well, that young boy wanted to be a football player, but between that young boy wanting to be that football player growing up and getting to the version of me that I am today with a collegiate level education, there was a lot of things that transpired in there that derailed that train and got things off course for me to even be right here where I am right now.
So help us unpack that. So as a little boy, you wanted to be a professional football player
Yeah.
and things kind of derailed. Can you walk us through that derailment?
Yeah, of course. I'll walk you through the derailment, but I'll also talk about the idea of why I wanted to be that football player, because many athletes that say that they want to be in the NFL, they truly want to be in the NFL or the NBA or NHL. They want to be there because that's their real dream. But I realized for me, that wasn't the real dream. That was the means to the end that I was trying to get to. And so the means to that end that I was trying to get to is I knew that pro football players could buy their moms homes. They had the money to be able to do it. And coming up, not knowing about anything else, I thought I need to become a football player because this is the only way I can have enough financial capital to be able to provide a home for my mom. So my love for the sport was more watching it than playing it. I played football for 4 or 5 years, and I was really good at what I did. I was a much better wrestler because that was one on one. It was me. I mean, I used to hate on people when we lost. I did my job. You didn't do your part. You missed the block, right? And so wrestling became my thing because that was one on one. If I lost, it was because of me. If I won, it was because of me. And so to get back to the question of what derailed that train, what derailed the train for me is at 13. At 13, I was jumped in as a crib at 13 years old, and I found myself falling more in love with those activities than I did when it came to sports and my passion trying to get to that point where I could become a pro at any sport. So that was the first thing that started to happen. And so started to just really go down a different path. And which subsequently led to me being expelled from high school my senior year because there was a conflict with a rival member. Um, I don't know how deep you want me to go into that. I can stay away from it and let you get to another question. But that event led to me being expelled from school, and that expulsion led to me really saying that I got to change something in my life for the better. Because if I don't, I'm going to end up like everybody else in the community, and I didn't want to end up that way.
So were you at the time of the expulsion, were you actively on the football team and wrestling at the time?
Yeah, so I was wrestling heavy. I was wrestling heavy, but to be honest, I would call myself like Jekyll and Hyde, in front of my friends, in front of like my close friends and family. I was the model person, tie pushed up, courteous. But I like to fight. I used to, I used to like to fight. I hated bullies, And, that crew really just gave me that out. It gave me that out to be able to do it. So wrestling got out a lot of that aggression, but then there was still a level of the other side of me that taking care of people, fighting. And of course, when you're dealing with that type of life, fighting is just a byproduct of it. And so, I was still heavily involved in sports, but then there was the other side of me that was doing things behind the scenes that people didn't know about until it came to a head.
So what would you recommend for that listener out there that feels that like they have that rage and they don't know how to control it? What are a couple of things that you would recommend to them so that they too don't derail as well?
Oh man, there's so many different things you got to look. You got to think full time now. I teach emotional intelligence. Like that's my lifeblood, my company, my life. I'm full EQ, right? Emotional quotient. And what that is everything starts with a level of awareness. Everything does. The awareness of me. Where does this internal aggression come from? Why am I so frustrated? Why am I not satisfied where I am? Why do I want to fight so much? Why am I so easily agitated? So it starts with that level of awareness. And then when you figure out what the root cause of this emotion is, then you can start finding adequate ways to be able to manage it. Okay, so cool. You like to fight? There are boxing gyms you can go to fight. There are jujitsu gyms you can go to be able to get some aggression out if you want to go and put your hands on somebody, you want to choke somebody, some people, so I teach jujitsu full time. That's a means for me to be able to just release the aggression. I love it. I wrestled and it's easy to go into it. So for the person that's dealing with something, the first thing is recognizing where you are, recognizing why you feel the way you feel. And then it's more importantly that not just recognizing where you are, because awareness is the start of it. But if you're not effectively doing things to manage it, then you will fall off course. But you got to have the motivation to start it. And that's where the rough part comes in, because most people don't have the motivation to start, even if they're aware of what it is. They don't have the motivation to manage those things because it takes work. And that work for them is what they want to go away from. It's easier for me to blame my emotional outbursts, my fighting, my inability to communicate. It's easy for me to blame that on I'm just an aggressive person, or this is just the way I communicate. But it's harder for you to recognize and to say that I want to put managing steps together to be able to be a better person.
Right. And then you also mentioned bullying as well, because this
Yeah.
is huge. And a couple of weeks ago, I had someone to approach me to say, her son was being bullied at school. And we all know that a lot of times the bully is just, wanting attention. What are
Right.
some suggestions as well if, there's a mom out there or even on the team, you can be bullied in so many different areas of your life. Like, how do you get out of those situations?
So how do you get out of it as far as being the person who's being bullied? Because are we talking about the parent? Like, because they're different pieces here, right? Let's talk about the bully. You mentioned it head on. That bully is probably seeking for some type of attention, seeking some type of validation. And I've found in my time, even through the Marine Corps, my career, because I've run into many military bullies as well, that these people lacked something. They lacked something, and many times it was the attention. But okay, so what is the attention breed? Well, when I get attention, it makes me feel good. It makes you feel what? It makes me feel loved. So the root of that whole thing is my behavior is because I'm not receiving the love that I want to get from somewhere else. So I'm projecting this poor ability to manage on somebody else, because at least me being liked feels better than nobody liking me. At least me feeling tough makes me feel like I have something of my own. And so most of the times you find that people are missing out on love. And that's one of the things that they do, especially with young males. They're missing out on being told, I'm proud of you. They're
Mm.
missing out on being told you did a good job. They're missing out on a hug, right? So many men don't hug their sons. So many people, period, don't hug them. Not this, I'm going to dap you up and bring you in and put my hand around you. That's macho. And I'm going to let you go right away because I can't be close. And so bringing them in close. My 20-year-old son is 6 feet tall and 235 pounds, bigger than me, right? Don't get me wrong, I still jack him up. But that's not the point. When I embrace my son, I embrace him and I speak to him when I'm holding him.
Mm.
I love you. I'm proud of you. Be safe wherever you're going. Come back in one piece. I talk to my son so he not only feels it physically, but he feels what his father is putting on him emotionally.
Mm.
And so when he's out there in the community, he's not trying to project this machismo. He's not trying to project this image of somebody he's trying to project this image. He's just projecting himself. And so that's one of the main things I found with male bullies. And what can parents do? You have to be present. You have to be present. You know, so many times we get caught up in trying to provide for our children,
Mm.
provide for our family members, and we get caught up in doing the thing for them. I'm going to the job for them. I'm taking this extra shift for them. I am staying up late and doing this for them, but you're not spending time with them. And I always say that absence speaks volumes. Well, I'm doing all of this for you. And it comes back, well, you're not doing anything for me. A prime example of this, my daughter told me one day when I was working on my book, and this cut me deep. This cut me really deep. I said, baby girl, I got to go. I'm going to go out to the cabin. I need to be away because I need to write. I need to be able to focus. I'm doing this for y'all. She said, you're doing this for you. And I was like, it hurt. I was offended. I mean, all of it. But the reality was, this was what was in her mind, and this is how she felt. And I needed to stop and put everything down. Why did you say that? Why did you say that you think this is for me? Well, you want to do this, you want to do this, you want to do this. And what it came back down to, when I peeled that onion back, she wanted more time. She saw me going out to go and do the thing that would benefit her in the long run, do the thing that would benefit people. But what she wanted was more time. And when she didn't receive time years before that, she was that bully as well. And so I know that's a long way to be able to answer that, but I wanted to tackle the parent portion and also with the personal portion when that person is actual bully. So
Oh, and I'm so glad that you did. Oh my goodness. When you said you hugged your son, I
yeah,
felt that hug. And so
yeah,
it's so important. So now I feel like I'm going to hug everybody
oh,
differently
you have
because
to.
touch is so important. Just think
Yeah,
about, and I have to go here because that's where my mind went. Just think about in the Bible, there were certain times when Jesus actually touched. And when you think about the people who were, diseased, can you
right.
imagine? Nobody ever touched them. So to
Nobody.
actually receive a touch from Jesus himself, so
Yep.
how much more do our children and our loved ones need our touch as well? That blessed me right there.
Well, let's go, man. Because so I no longer talk about it like just a hug with my children. I talk about embracing. That word changes it. Embrace them before they leave the house. Don't hug them before they leave the house. Embrace, embrace your husband or your bride before they leave the house. Embrace them. Don't hug them because that becomes a check in the box.
Mm-hmm.
Although, hey, love you. Have a good day. It becomes a check in the box, but you don't know if that's going to be the last time you see him. Somebody asked me, talking about hugging my son, a good friend of mine years ago before I had my youngest child. My oldest is 20 and my youngest is 2. And he asked me before the birth of my youngest children, he said, I was holding his 6-month-old son. And he said, did you ever think the last time you held Lil D, my oldest son, would be the last time you held him like this? And I thought, oh my God. If I knew that would have been the last time he would have said, Dad, pick me up, I'd have held him longer. If I knew when my son left my house yesterday to go back down to Virginia Beach would be the last time that I would see him, I would still be hugging him right now.
Mm.
And so I no longer think about that hug from a traditional sense. I'm thinking I need to embrace that moment because it's just as big for me as it is for him. Because when I'm embracing him, I'm also teaching him how he needs to embrace his son. Therefore, I'm raising my grandchildren. I'm showing them how to love. I'm showing them how to show how to openly express. And your love language might not be touch. It might not be touch. But when I'm speaking you and giving you those words of affirmation, that might land on your heart in the way that you need it to land. So anyway, I'm gonna give it back to you. This is your show, and I'm starting to roll.
Oh no, no, no! You're doing fantastic. Okay, so tell us what happened. So the bullying, the off derailment, and so how did you get back on track? What was it that was able to? I know you said a little bit of it, but let's go there.
Right. So what got me on the right track?
Yes.
This was pretty crazy. So a year before that, I'll say about 9 months before that, I had already joined what's known as the delayed entry program to join the Marines. I had already joined. And so my plan was to join the Marine Corps because I needed to leave Montgomery, Alabama. Nothing was happening. Friends were going to jail. And now clearly I'm on this same path. So I had already joined, but at this point, I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going to go anymore. So I got expelled, moved out of my mom's home. I'm living in somebody's basement, right, with a friend of mine. And I'm talking about those roaches made me rethink my decision. I'm like, man, I'm not for these streets. I thought I was hard, you know what I mean? But I didn't have to deal with one or two is okay, but you know what I mean? This is their property.
Family.
Like this is not it. So I'm there, and I'm because I got expelled from every public school in the state of Alabama, I had to go to private school. So I had to get a job. I'm working at private school, going to day classes and night classes to be able to graduate. And my Marine Corps recruiter, he would come and pick me up every day from that basement and take me to school. When the day classes ended, he would take me back to his office, and I would just sit in the recruiter's office with him while he worked. And then that night, he would take me back to night classes, and then he'd take me back to the basement. And we rinsed and repeated that. School, back to his office, school to work, school, back to the basement. And he did that for about 6 months until I graduated. And when I graduated, I didn't walk. No graduation ceremony, no nothing. I finished my last test. Went with the principal, no kidding. Night class ended. They printed my diploma, handed my diploma to the recruiter. He drove me to my house. I hugged my mom, hugged my brother. I got on the bus and I went to Parris Island for Marine Corps boot camp. 13 weeks later, I was a United States Marine, and 22 years later, here I am.
Well, and thank you so much for your service. Oh my word. So to serve the country for that length of time, what a privilege. And Absolutely. I didn't recognize the sacrifice until my nephew was in the Air Force. Like, it is a sacrifice for you to do that for us. So thank you so much for your service. So, we hear so much about the Marines. How were the Marines able to get you into shape, both physically and emotionally?
Listen, I told you I was a young banger, right? You think you're hard until you get until you get in a different element. Everybody's tough when they got a crew. Ooh. Everybody's tough when you got a crew. But that isolation brings about your true character when you're by yourself. Adversity is what that adversity that they put me through. Adversity doesn't build character. It reveals character first. And it revealed there was a lot of things in me that needed to be broken down. I literally went back on a potter's wheel. That's what the Marine Corps did. It put me back on the potter's wheel to reshape me into the person I needed to be. And the first thing that they do in Marine Corps boot camp is they reduce I. They reduce I, meaning me. You are not allowed to say I for 13 weeks. You refer to yourself in third person as this recruit. So they remove the identity of the old self and they start creating this version of you that you need to be to become a Marine. And through the training, there are no phone calls home on the weekend. This is 13 weeks of only writing letters. This is 13 weeks for somebody that's 17 years old, that's been socially connected to the gang and to family. And now I'm by myself doing something that could potentially change my life and the life of generations to come. And so 13 weeks later, I'm meritoriously promoted, graduated boot camp, and my career is beautiful. And you talked about the sacrifices and things that happen, from serving in the military. And I experienced that. I experienced the worst of combat in 2003. Just to elaborate on it, when I'm talking about adversity doesn't build the character first, it reveals the character first, because you're talking now 3 years later, I'm 20 years old. A year prior to that, 2001, before we got rid of the towers come down, and I'm immediately on a response team to go and provide security in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And then 2003, I'm part of the initial invasion going into Iraq. Little did I know that 2 days after going into the city, that we would be ambushed and I would lose 18 of my best friends in 4 hours. So when we talk about someone going through adversity growing up and then joining the Marine Corps to be better and saying, I'm going to solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and then having the opportunity to go and do it, is one thing to swear to say, I will do it. It's another thing to find yourself in a position where you have to do it. But the Marine Corps was great about giving me the training needed to be able to do my part in that situation, to ensure that I could come back. By the grace of God, I came back. It wasn't just because of my hands. but to do what was needed. And when I say losing 18, I don't mean hearing about it. I mean, I witnessed it face to face, and I dealt with those scars, and I still deal with those scars. And, many times some people ask me, when were you in combat? I say 2003 and 2011. And then other times they ask me and I say last night, because many times the nightmares are unbelievable. And so, but what the Marine Corps gave me and how they shaped me and helped me, I just grew into this person. I grew into this person that has resilience, that has resolve, that's poised, that's confident, that has the belief in self like nobody's business. Like, you cannot tell me I am not him. I'm Dimyas Purdue. I don't need any other validation. And that came from me going through all of these adverse things within the Marine Corps and also within my family.
So, and I'm all about it. I told you about, we talk about solving problems here on the Dana Spencer Show as well. Does every young man that is headed in the wrong direction need to join the Marines? Sounds like it's helpful.
It's helpful, but it's not made for everybody. There's a reason why the Marine Corps is the smallest branch, because we're looking for the creme de la creme. The weeding out process is real. Most other services boot camps go between 6 weeks and 9 weeks to become that. Ours is 13 weeks just to start. It's 13 weeks, and not many people can handle that. Other branches are, reserve and active duty. They're over 1 million strong, but the Marine Corps is only about 185,000. And those numbers are small for a reason. So no, everybody doesn't need to go to the Marine Corps, but everybody needs to have the principles that the Marine Corps teaches. Everybody needs to, our core values of honor, courage, and commitment. Everybody needs to honor themselves and honor the people who are closest to them. Everybody needs to have courage to stand up in the face of wrongdoing, physical courage, mental courage, and emotional courage to be able to stand up and do what's right. You know what I mean? And then, commitment. That commitment needs to be to you, to your family, to your goals. In my book, I talk about the first thing you need to be committed to, that reaffirm that commitment to your goals. They're waiting for you. You know what I mean? These are the things you said you wanted to do. Even the bully has a goal. Even the bully has a goal, right? And so, no, everybody doesn't need to join the Marine Corps. They just need to. It would be great if everybody had that discipline, the ability to say that you're going to do something, stick with it, despite the ups and downs, the ebbs and the flows, to be able to see it through to completion.
Now, it popped in my mind about this recruiter, because you said that for the Marines, they're looking for the creme de la creme.
Right.
And so this transporting you back and forth, what do you believe he saw in you where he was like, you know what? This young man is worth it. This young man, there's more to him, and I need to be a part of where God is taking him.
That is a true statement, because let me tell you something. I ended up becoming a recruiter years later. That's not an easy job. And I didn't have time to take somebody back and forth, because you have a mission, you have a number. I wasn't a number to him. There was something, and I still can't. I tried to find him. I tried to find him years later, and I saw him on LinkedIn, no response. So I don't know where he is. I know he didn't do 20 years. But it's crazy, because this dude literally spent so much extra time driving me in his personal vehicle. And had he not done that, I wouldn't have graduated high school. Had he not done that, I wouldn't have gone to Marine Corps boot camp. Had he not done that, I wouldn't be the PhD student that I am right now, with a beautiful family in a home. I wouldn't have been able to buy my mom that home that I didn't buy as the NFL player. I wouldn't have been able to do any of that. And so it's so important, that you consider other people in your decision making. This guy said, I'm going to reduce myself, and I'm going to take I'm going to go this extra length, this extra mile for this 17-year-old banger in Montgomery, Alabama, who I've already recruited. He's already going. I don't need to do anything extra. The work is done. But I'm going to inconvenience myself because I see something in him. I wish I knew what he saw in me. I wish I knew. When I ascended the ranks, I think he saw me there. I think he saw that. I think he saw that potential, because when we would get together to do the workouts, I was the loud guy because I was an athlete. You know what I mean? I could do the push-ups. I can do the pull-ups. That was no thing to me. But it had to be beyond physical, because plenty of people come in and they have the physical attributes, but it's the character. It is the character. You know what I mean? And I think he heard that in me. One of my favorite quotes is thoughts become words, words become actions, actions become character, and character is everything. And I think through my thinking, they became my words. My words were in my actions. And he saw my actions and he knew what my character was. And he said, I'm going to take care of this guy. And he took care of me. And because of that, I never forgot him, but I ensured that I paid it forward with everybody. And I give them that extra because you never know who's that next president. You never know who's that keynote speaker, who's that leading podcast person, who's that next PhD, who's that next philosopher. But we have to just give of ourselves freely because you never know who's going to benefit from it. And I'm a byproduct of that.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And so you dropped us the nugget that you were able to buy your mom a home. So tell us how you were able to, especially this, I know this is going to be so important because to your point, and you started with this, young men, that's all they see. They see the entertainers, they see the professional athletes, and they think that is the only way to achieve true success. So how were you able to buy a house for your mom and not be in NFL?
Right. So obviously financial management is a big part of that. That's a big part. And I had to mature into that person as well. I had to mature into that person because coming from a place where money wasn't flowing at a cyclic rate, you're just not used to seeing the kind of money. So my career, you don't make a lot of money in the military, but if you take care of your money and you do extra things, I coached on the side, right? So I was able to put a little bit of money away. And obviously my bride is phenomenal, and we work together and we take care of our finances. But the way that I ended up getting to the point to buy my mom the home, let me tell you, it's like everybody desires to look at that comma in the bank account and see them zeros, the extra ones, right? And so I had got to the point where I retired. September last year was my official retirement. I'm running my own company. I work for another company. I'm retired. So there's a little change coming in. And the first 2 months, I took care of myself. I was like, I've always wanted this. I'm going to get this. I've always wanted this. I'm going to get this. And me and my mom were having another conversation. My grandmother, who participated in the civil rights movement, is now not in good health, so she needed to move in with my mom. But my mom was still living in the same home she was living in when I left to join the Marine Corps. She's still in the same 1,300 square foot, one bathroom with her, my stepfather, my sister, and my grandmother. And so here I am in my house. The size of my house is not important, but I've done well for that little dude coming out of Alabama, right? Here I am here, and I'm talking to my mom, and she's like, D, I'm just really praying for God to get me out of this neighborhood. I'm tired of hearing the gunshots. And when she said it this time, it did something to me. I'm like, wait a second. My grandmother's 86 years old. She's been through the civil rights movement. She's lost children, and now her health is failing. She's there, and my mom is caring for her. And she told me that my grandmother went to the front door because she thought someone was knocking on the door, but it was gunshots outside. That's how close they were to the house. And I was like, something's got to change. And so I talked to my bride and I said, listen, it's nice to see this money adding up in the bank account. It's great. But we need to put my mom in a home. And I said, Mom, go and start looking, go and start identifying places. And we did our search and we found a place. And I told her to go and take a look at it. And she called me. She was like, no. I was like, what do you mean? No. She's like, this is too much. I said, do you like the house? She said, I love it. And I said, if you love the house, we're already approved. This is going to be your home. And boom, they accepted it. And Thanksgiving this year, I got my whole family and we went and spent it with my mom in her brand new house.
Hey, praise the Lord. Oh my goodness, that is amazing. That is so amazing. And so you've mentioned bride a couple of times, and then we talked about your story. So where did we pick up the bride in the story? Like where did she come in? Because we love a good love story here on the Dana Spencer Show.
The bride came in through the Marine Corps. So I was what's known as a master faculty advisor, meaning I taught I could teach any form of curriculum for the Marine Corps for certain schools because I was a proven performer. I knew all of the curriculum. So this means somebody's missing, give me the book, let me look at it, I can teach. And that's the thing, you want to get there. So it's junior, senior, and then master faculty advisor, you want to get there. So I'm a master faculty advisor and I'm working in the course and we're training new instructors. and a guy has a relative pass away and he needs to leave. And so when he leaves, my now bride shows up to replace him for the last 3 days. And, I'm like, very big deal. I'm not paying attention to her, and plenty of reasons why. We ain't got that time for the show to be able to do all that. I'm giving you this other part of it. But I was going through a lot at the time. So I'm just helping her out, telling her, here's what he did. Let me catch you up. And 3 days go, it's time for us to get ready to leave. And she does two things. She's half Jamaican. Her mom is Jamaican, her dad's white. And she brings me a cup of coffee, and it's a cup of coffee, and it's the flavor of the coffee is called Jamaican Me Crazy. And she says, consider this a parting gift. Because I gave her a hard time for not bringing me coffee the day before. So anyway, I'm getting ready to leave. She says, hey, will you do my evaluation? Will you do my evaluation and certify me on this class she was about to teach? Well, she went to go and teach. I evaluated her. I gave her form. But her friend saw her look at me and she said, what was that? I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, what was that? I was like, I have no idea what you mean. She said, I've never seen her look at a man like that. I was like, well, that's cool. She was like, hey, so you think I can talk about it? I was like, no. I was like, I'm not in a position right now to be able to, because I was going through a divorce. I said, I'm not in a position to be able to communicate with her right now. I said, but you could do me this favor. Tell her when I'm gone, whoever gets to marry her is a lucky man. And I left. And shortly after that, spent some time away, got ready to get on my plane. And my phone rings as I'm getting on the plane. Hey, I found a way to get your number. Is it okay if we keep in contact? We've talked every day since. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And so now we're how long being married?
Yeah, we're coming up on 8 years being married. And I'm talking about, when I tell you these 8 years have been full of tragedy and triumph with us, that's a whole separate show in itself. But when I tell you, I call her my bride for a reason. So many people say my wife, my spouse, whatever. That's my bride. I'm reminding myself of the woman that I chose to marry. I want to see her. Check this out. Let me throw this one out there. I got to sit back on this one. She can be a girlfriend from a day to 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. She can be a fiance for a year, 2 years. She's a bride for one day. She's a bride for one day. Think about that. And I want to remind her that that day is going to continue on. We're not doing this thing. You had one day of being called a bride, but I'm going to call you my bride for the rest of my life, because it's a reminder for me of how I should be treating her. I should be treating her as my bride, right? And so I ensure that I continue to do that. So, but she's been so influential, and this is why helpmate is so important, because when I got with her, I was just finishing my associates, and she's like, okay, you're going to continue to go to school? I'm like, absolutely not. I'm done. I got expelled from high school. Having one degree is cool. I'm good. And I was like, look at I was like, she's like, but you're getting C's. I was like, yeah, because C's get degrees. What are you talking about? She's like, but you helped me. She was getting her bachelor's. She was like, but you proofread my work and you do all of this and you're really good. She was like, but I can understand with your lower level classes, that's why you're able to do it like that. I was like, oh, like, hold on now. She said, so we'll see if you ever get your bachelor's and see what it's like then. And so it was a challenge. And I had never been called out like that, So my bachelor's was 4.0 summa cum laude.
Oh.
And my master's was a 3.8, with distinction, right? And in a PhD program, but it came from that support system. It came from her telling me that I see so much more in you, like that recruiter did. I see so much more in you than you're showing right now. If you're really going to be the example that you say that you are, it doesn't just need to show when you're speaking in front of a crowd. It doesn't need to show when you're in a book. It doesn't need to show when you're in a gym. Every single thing you touch, because your name is Dimyas Purdue, you need to go back to the other quote that you say is your favorite, which is every work is a self-portrait. Autograph your work with excellence. And when it came to my education, I wasn't autographing my work with excellence. I was just signing my name saying it's complete. But I said, no longer would I do that, because I'm trying to set a standard. And if I'm creating a standard of just mediocrity, then everybody else is going to follow that. But now when you go and pull my curriculum, you're going to see with distinction with all of these things. You're going to see summa cum laude. And when I get this PhD, it's going to say the exact same thing, because I need to autograph it with excellence, but none of this would have happened if it wasn't for me being with my bride. Everything changed. Everything from being able to buy my mom the home, the numerous homes that we've purchased together, bringing 3 children into this world. It's been phenomenal with this relationship. So the support system is everything. You got me rolling again. Don't make me talk about her, you know.
No, I love it. I told you here on the Dana Spencer Show, we love a good love story. That is amazing. So, what would you recommend out there for? I mean, your situation was a little bit different, but in terms of for young men out there looking for their bride, and I also think about, I love how you keep the bride present, because think about those vows, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, like
Yeah.
those are going to continue to always stay present. So I love that. But what about that brother out there who wants to find their bride? What are some tips that you would give to him or her?
Make sure you fill your cup first. Fill your cup first. I had this conversation with my daughter the other day because she's 18 years old and thinking she's graduating. I'm ready to start my life, ready to be in a relationship. So to my gentlemen out there, to the young ladies out there, you want to find that husband, you want to find that bride, the groom and the bride. Let's use the same terms. Let's talk about this for a second. So many people, because of past relationships, they've been hurt or whatever type of trauma that they have, or breakups, because these day and age, nobody's still dating their high school sweetheart 20 years later. All right. So you've been through a few relationships, and what happens is you're going into these relationships blindly. You're going into these relationships blindly with this empty cup, and you want it to be filled with love. And you want this cup to be filled with love so bad that when liquid starts to go in it, you're just happy to be receiving something because you're thirsty for that love. You're so thirsty for that love, and now you feel liquid coming into it. And then when you open your eyes and you open your eyes and you realize this is black, this is dirty. But you are so happy to be receiving something. You've been stuck in these bad relationships. And so you've been chasing people to fill this cup with the love that you need. But what you should be doing instead is you should start with your empty cup, and you should fill it with the love that you need, so that when anything else gets poured in there, you can spot anything that's not true and authentic. You can spot anything. And so the only way you can do that, here's the other part. If you got her pouring in this cup, and you got her pouring, and you got pouring, it's difficult to see who's the one. But everybody's glamorizing multiple relationships, and nobody's glamorizing monogamy. Nobody's glamorizing taking care of you first. So my recommendation for people is to fill your cup so you can be able to identify anything that's tarnishing the color of that pureness for you first. That's the first thing. And then you have to identify what are your non-negotiables. What are you looking for? And if they don't fit that, you got to cross that out. You can't. Marriage is not, it's not going to be that. Now, will there be some ups and downs? Of course. But there are certain behaviors people are going to show you in the beginning that are going to let you know that whether or not that's that person or not. Maya Angelou's quote says, when a person shows you who they are, believe them. Pause. The first time. That dot. The first time. Because chances are, if they showed that once before, they're going to show you that again. And too many times we forgive that non-negotiable, and we allow it to continue to go on. So I would say, take care of you, fill your cup first, identify your non-negotiables. Don't give free passes when it comes to stepping on your heart and breaking your heart and not doing what you need. Don't get free passes. Nobody gets that free pass. You violate that value. You violate something, one of my core beliefs. I'm sorry, then we can't do that. Now, people make mistakes. People make mistakes. I understand that, and nobody's perfect, but that's where I would start. Take care of you first and fill that cup.
So fill that cup. So what does that mean for us? How do I, if I'm empty and I'm broken and I didn't have a relationship with my dad and I didn't have a relationship nowadays, people are not having relationships with their moms or their dad. I don't have my dad, my mom's on drugs or whatever. So I'm walking around as an empty cup, and I don't even know what that means to fill up my cup. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's good. So I call it, I talk about the 3 bodies. I talk about the 3 bodies when you're missing something. And I talk about it from the standpoint of coaching and also when you're in need. The first thing I think a person should do, no matter what their belief system is taking care of their spiritual body first thing in the morning. Their spiritual body. I don't care what you believe in. There's something about centering and realizing that this world is bigger than you. And when you take care of that spiritual body first, now you're centered and you can start that day. Then you move into taking care of that physical body. physical activity, when you're taking care of this vessel, because this is the only one you have. You're worried about filling a cup and finding a mate. If you don't take care of this, y'all not going to be together that long. So taking care of that physical body. Research says that when you take care of the physical body, when you do physical activity, that you're more receptive to information. And so that leads me into that next body. After you take care of the physical body, you now take care of the mental body. You need to read something, do something for personal development. The spiritual body is different from that mental body. Spiritual body comes first because you need to make that priority, getting centered. Then you take care of your physical body. After you take care of your physical body, you're receptive to information, do something, whatever you're into, pour it, read it, no matter what it is. You're into psychology, read it. You're into sports, read it, but it's got to be something for you. Take care of that mental body. And then when you do that, you're now in a better position to search for your somebody and help somebody because you've already taken care of you. That's how you fill your cup first. You fill your cup by taking care of those three bodies.
Awesome. Love that. I'm glad I double clicked into that because that was so good. That was so good. So, and you talked about multiple properties. You know, here on the Dana Spencer Show, we do talk about investing in real estate. So it sounds like you've dipped your toe into that as well.
Yeah, pinky toe. We did that. We pinky toed our way into that. I bought my first property back in 2007. I still own that house in Louisiana. Of course, obviously, equity has been built up in it since then. And since me and my bride together, we purchased 3 homes together, sold 2 of those homes, and now we're in this house. And so now we only own those. We own those 3 homes: the home that we live in, the home in Louisiana, and the home that we bought my mom. We own those homes, but we've sold 3 homes. And doing that, being in that real estate market, I'm not big on real estate, but I am a byproduct. I am seeing the value, the benefit in purchasing real estate, because when you do have that equity, and you sell that home and that hits that account and you pay your debt off, instead of balling out, going putting the rims on it, instead of going out and buying some new clothes and getting the new chain just so you can look good, and you invest it, it changes your life. It changes everything. And the beauty in that, Dana, when we talk about that financial freedom, that stuff like real estate can bring, is like when you get to that point where you have that, you start realizing you don't need anything. That's what it's about for me. That's what that real estate piece, that's what that financial freedom is giving me. It's like in all of my getting, when I look around and I look at I've built this studio. I've built this. On the outside of this wall is a gym in my base. My basement in my home is the same size as the home I just moved my mom out of. That's my basement. You know what I mean? And then we got the other floors that are there. And so when I think about that, yes, it's great for real estate, but let's not get caught up in that money factor, because some of the richest people in the world have taken their lives and some of the poorest people are the happiest. And so I don't want to get that twisted. I'm not telling people to be poor. No, absolutely not. Get that money, but understand that it comes at a cost and you better do the right thing with that money. I want to earn more through real estate and through speaking and through books and through everything that I do so I can give more. Because the more that you give, the more that hand is open, passing out, man, you're going to be getting so much more. That's biblical, right? But that tight hand, like you get a lot of people when it comes to it, that's when it changes. So we've been very fortunate tapping into that real estate, and we're looking forward to other opportunities right now as they come available.
Yeah, and you all have uncovered a beautiful word called equity. So just think, so like you're able to, sell a couple of properties and probably, get a better property. And just think about those people who are renting and have rented their entire lives and don't know anything about the beauty of equity. How important is that? Because when you think about generational wealth, it starts most of the time with real estate. Because think about this. A property that you purchased for, $50,000 and 10 years later, or now even a couple of years later, it's worth $100,000 more. Who can save $100,000? I don't know about you, but I sure can't. But it's an amazing tool it just happens and we don't even know about it.
Right. It's because you're not, and it's just doing it. It's just doing it because the person that's renting, you're doing the same thing for somebody else. You're paying their rent and you're probably paying over what their mortgage is. So they're pocketing that. They're paying their mortgage off and the equity is going up. Or they're taking the money that you're paying them and they're dipping it. Yep. Putting this in this other property. I'm putting it, or even if your thing is not property, I'm putting this into this other business. instead of buying this, you know, we got a good friend, you know what I mean? Got a garage spaces. I'm going to take the money from the home and I'm going to use this to pay the mortgage on the garage spaces. So anything to do with the property, you know, they always say it. They're not making any more land. They're not making any more land. Go and buy you some land. Go and buy you some land. People are more willing to invest in things to look good, to look rich, than do the necessary steps to get to that point. I was talking with my daughter the other day. I'm like, listen, people, why would you want to buy? I went to Bulgaria. I just got back from London. I had a keynote in Bulgaria and I bought her a nice clutch, low purse from over there, probably about $70 US. And then she loves it. It's phenomenal. But then we looked at a Louis bag. It's like $2,000 for the same size. I'm like, you cannot tell me this is not the same leather. You can't tell me it's not. But we get so caught up in wanting to have the name. We get so caught up in wanting to look the part. Like, let's get away from that, especially in the Black, Indigenous people of color. Like, let's get away from trying to look like we're shining and do the things necessary to really shine. It's not about you. Like, we're trying to impress other people, right? Kill the comparison. Stop looking at that and start focusing on what tomorrow looks like. When you focus on what tomorrow looks like, you'll look at that purchase and be like, you know what? Yeah, it's really not necessary. You want a $2,000 wallet with $5 in it.
Oh no! Oh,
really good. Yeah. Oh, that's wow. You got a Birkin bag, but you got $86 in your account. Why? Your priorities are off. Let's realign these things. Nothing wrong with people having nice things, but make sure it's within the realm of responsibility. Be responsible, because that person is not going to do anything for you. But that $2,000 that you did, 10 persons later, that's a down payment. That's your 20% for whatever that property was you wanted to get.
right. And you hit the nail on the head a lot of times what I hear, because I'm talking out of the side of each neck, because I am a real estate investor and I teach as well. Because once I got started into real estate, I'm like, everybody needs to learn how to do this. And so I'm on a mission to teach, and especially athletes. So it's amazing that you were saying that you were an athlete, but the ability to look at this purse, like the differences, like we got to stop acting like we don't have, for example, the down payment when our priorities look, I mean, no shade, but look how much money we spend on hair and on cosmetics. Like, I bet if you were to really do the math and really pull out your Excel spreadsheet and look and see how much you spend on just hair and makeup alone, you might have enough money for a down payment. I'm just saying.
Come on. And let's not even look at real estate. Let's look at life experiences. Black Friday, people were buying TVs, they're buying shoes, they're buying all of these other things, but they've never been outside of their state. Because you could have taken that same $600, and matter of fact, we were looking up cruises, same $600, and December 4th, you could have went on a 15-day cruise to Italy. The same $600. Now you got a lived experience that can get you outside, which leads me to this next comment. The reason why people don't really change is because they have never been exposed to different. And the first time you get exposed to better, the first time you get exposed to something that's a level up above you, you can't unsee that. You cannot unsee that type of living. The minute you sit in the plane and you've been on coach and then you move up to business class, you can't unsee that feeling. You know what I mean? Like, people walk past me when I'm sitting in my good seat. I'm like, peasants, right? That's the way you feel. But then I realized I only got the business class on the first flight, and I'm like, okay, I'm not. But it's exposure. That exposure to real estate is what changes people. That exposure to financial freedom is what changes people. That exposure to that young kid that grew up in Montgomery, Alabama, and never saw anything other than Atlanta, Georgia, whose first time being on a plane went to Okinawa, Japan, and lived there for 6 months, changed my life. That changed my life. And so when you talk about what do people need to get, you need to get exposed to a new thing. Because when that lens changes, you're able to see differently. But if you continue to look at life through these same neighborhood glasses, through the same glass, through that same thing, you can only see this. It is time for you to change your prescription. Your eyes fail over time. So it's time for you to change that prescription so you can start seeing what God really wants you to see. But you keep picking up these old glasses, or you're getting glasses from your friend because they're successful and you want to wear theirs. But if you ever wore somebody's glasses that not yours, you can get a headache. Because it's not your glasses. That's not your prescription. They're too strong for you. You need to go in and sit right back in front of that person and let them give you that adjustment that is needed for your eyes. So when you put it back on, you now see what you're supposed to see. being exposed to what your future is supposed to look like.
You better say that. Oh, that was change your you need a new prescription. I don't know. That might you've been dropping so many gems. I don't know what the thumbnail is going to be, but it is going to be dope. Good, so, and you talked about a book at some point. I heard you say about a book. Tell us about your book.
Yes. So that one little clip I talk about right there, when I talk about changing that prescription, I call that the optometrist method. And I talk about that in the book. You know, it's the optometrist method. But the book title is Elevation Requires Change, the Journey Towards Purpose and Fulfillment. And the reason why I came up with that title is that people talk about wanting to elevate, wanting to go up, wanting to have more money, wanting to have a better relationship. They want to elevate, but they don't want to change. But elevation requires change. And people typically say they want change, but they don't, because it comes with a cost. They want the benefits of what change brings. That's what they want. But it's more important than that. Elevation requires change, the journey towards purpose and fulfillment. I want you to chase your purpose. I want you to chase what fulfills you. I wanted to be an NFL player because I wanted to be able to buy my mom a home. That was the only reason. But being an NFL wouldn't fulfill me. What fulfills me is doing what we're doing right now, because there's going to be at least one person that listens to this and is going to write that one thing down that was said, and it's going to change their life. That's what gives me fulfillment. And that's what that book is all about. It's about people recognizing where they are through self-awareness. That's that emotional intelligence coming back. And then I give them numerous steps to be able to recognize it and to be able to encounter it. One of the things I always talk about, people are like, well, I don't know how I can be better. It just seems like I'm distracted. I got a bunch of things going on. I call it the identify concept. When you identify, you identify. When you identify your distractions, you identify the root cause of your inaction. And so people are not looking at the things that are distracting them. But if you start looking at that, pull those roots, pull those weeds, now you can start taking action. But that book is being sold on bookbaby.com. Here's the plug. Bookbaby.com. You can get the book sent directly to you. Amazon, you can get the book to you. Barnes and Nobles and Books A Million has the book. But if you do buy the book, please leave me a review. But I promise you, it's going to change your life. Let's go.
All right. And so then, what if somebody is listening and they're like, man, he is amazing. I feel like that they just really vibe with you. Do you have a coaching program or a mentorship, or how can they work with you? Like, they get the book and they're like, I want more. How can they get more from you?
Yeah. So my website, PurdueLeadership.com. You can go to PurdueLeadership.com and you can jump on there. I've got coaching packages, everything from assessments for emotional intelligence, assessments for personality. You know what I mean? I start everything with assessments because I can try to figure out who you are, but your data is going to tell me who you are. So, but I do coach. I do one-on-one coaching and I do group coaching. You can find out all that on the website to be able to do it. I've got IG, I've got LinkedIn, I've got Facebook. All of them are under my name, Dimyas Purdue on LinkedIn, Dimyas Purdue on Facebook. And on Instagram, it is _Dimyas, DIMYAS_Purdue.
Awesome. And I will gather all those links and put them in the comments so that everyone has them, or put them in the description so everyone has them as well. This has been an amazing conversation. So if we were going to put a bow on this conversation, what would be the one thing or the couple of things that you want the listeners to walk away with?
Oh man, I would just say that really everything comes back to that emotional intelligence thing I talked about. Relationships end because of poor emotions. People don't get jobs or get hired because of great emotion control, or they get let go because of poor emotion management. And if I could say anything, I wouldn't want to plug my book. I wouldn't want to plug my coaching. I would want to plug, I need you to understand what emotional intelligence is. I would want you to understand that it's the ability to recognize, understand, and manage the emotions in me. The ability to recognize and understand the emotions in myself and others, and then the ability to be able to manage that awareness to improve my relationships and my behavior. If you have poor emotion control, nothing is going to work out for you. And if you're not fully aware of where you are, you're not going to move forward. And so we got to increase that level of awareness. If you're not working the job you want to work, identify why. If your marriage is not what it's supposed to be, identify why. If your children are not doing what they're supposed to do, identify why. That's awareness. That's from the personal competence. And then from there, let's then start working together to be able to manage that. I don't want to plug anything else, because the reason why the prisons are filled with so many people right now is because of poor emotion management. The reason why there are road rage incidents is poor emotion management. The reason why sports players, NFL, leave and they're broke is because their awareness of their new finances, they manage it in a poor way. All of this is emotional intelligence, and it lives in everything. And so that's one thing that I would want to drop there. And then the other one is, I would ask that you clean up your mental garden. Clean up your mental garden. Growing up in Alabama, my grandmother had a garden, and she would take me out, help me clean the greens and all this kind of stuff. And I was wondering, like, man, why are these holes in it? And she was like, baby, the bugs got to eat too, and but it was still edible. And I said, you know what, if I could ever have a garden, I would put a greenhouse around it. I'll put a greenhouse because I can control what's coming in it. I can control the temperature. I can control all these things. And so my message, other than building your EQ level, would be to create a greenhouse around your mind. Create a greenhouse around your mind, because when you do that, you prevent things from being able to come in. You prevent people from being able to come in and just take from your mental garden. You prevent people being able to come in and be the weeds in your garden. I will put up a mental greenhouse to be able to take care of that space, allow nothing to come in until it's time to harvest. And when it's time to harvest, that's you going out as the version of you that you're supposed to be.
Oh, you better say that. Oh my goodness. Well, Dimyas, you have been amazing. Oh my goodness. This is definitely going to be an episode that you're going to have to listen to multiple times. He dropped so many nuggets. So thank you so much, Dimyas, for being on the show. And remember, build a greenhouse around your mental ability so that you don't allow other people to come in and make those adjustments to your mental capacity. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Dimyas. Oh, peace out. He couldn't end it no better than that. Until next time on the Dana Spencer Show, get that greenhouse.
Get it.